Pretty sure you know that, right? You put some signs outside tomorrow.
John, we're ready.
Well, he's already got one.
Okay, everyone, it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to call the July 16th Board of Commissioner meeting to order. Today, we're going to start out with the prayer by Commissioner Sarkella, followed by the pledge by Commissioner Ballard.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the day, for the sunshine, for the opportunity to be together, and for the opportunity to gather in a free country. We ask that you would be with us and guide us in making decisions today on behalf of our neighbors and friends. And we ask that you would be with all leaders in our country and also be with all of our county employees and give them time for respite and rest this summer as they enjoy God's creation. In your most precious Son's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Leslie, roll call, please.
District 1 Chairman John Black,
Present.
District 2 Commissioner Roger Ballard,
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Gary Heberling,
Present.
District 4 Commissioner Bill Sarkella,
Here.
District 5 Commissioner Christine Lee, here, District 6 Commissioner Evans Ehart,
Present.
District 7 Commissioner John Moody.
Thank you, Leslie. I do have one deletion to today's agenda, and that would be the presentation from Clark Hill Law Firm. And Nathan will discuss that later to explain why. If there are no other corrections, deletions, or additions to the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the one amendment. I'm going to have a motion by Commissioner Ballard, support by Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Agenda is adopted. If there are no corrections or deletions to our July 2nd meetings, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll approve the minutes from the July 2nd, 2024 meeting.
Support. I have a motion from Commissioner Heberling, supported by Commissioner Sarkella to approve our meeting minutes from July 2nd. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You received your correspondence from Jody through email the other day. That'll move us into commissioner reports, and we're going to start with Commissioner Moody.
Your report.
Okay.
I have a township meeting this Thursday.
Okay. I attended a Marion Township meeting 2 weeks ago. Marion Township is going to be asking the voters for a 1 mil for fire service protection on the November ballot this year. That's all I have. Christine?
I attend the Brown City Council meeting, and they're doing the storm sewer cleaning and the temporary easement for the lift station, and Maple Valley Estates have a new owner. And this one item, I'll let Nathan cover it in his report. And the speed signs that flash that with the speed limits, they've been moving them around town. And then I was at the Maple Valley Township Board meeting, and they need to appoint somebody for the board review. And they are in the process of, on their property, to put a little park in, and they was just wondering what their liability, and they talked with their lawyer, and he suggests that they post signs. Then I also went to Flint Township meeting, and their nature center had an open house, and they did a 5K with it, and they had 150 people that attended it, and they had 63 registered runners, and they got a nice medal that was made out of wood. It was beautiful, that went with the nature theme, and they plan on doing that again next year. And they had their scrap tire recycling event this past Thursday. And that's it for townships.
Thank you, Christine. Bill?
Port Sanilac, at their meeting had some food truck discussion. They put some ordinances in place. CEPA is continuing to move forward. They discussed their short-term rentals as well as updating their village employee contracts. Applegate updated some zoning, looking at entering into an agreement like some of the other localities have with the county sheriff in regards to some zoning enforcement. And they're waiting on the Red House demolition. So that paperwork we know is going through to get that taken care of. They have 5 new firefighters, several in training, so that's a good thing for them. Tax bills sent out and their attorney's retiring, so they're exploring a new attorney. Washington Township appointed zoning board members, the columbarium is installed at the cemetery. And they're trying to figure out what to charge for participation with that. They've updated some ordinances in regards to their sand pit issues that they've had there. And they've also passed their audit. And Bridgehampton, getting some graveling done. They have their tax money coming in now, a new assessor. And they've also are doing some graveling moving forward, working with the road commission as well. And then Sand Lake Township, their Townsend Road water project, they're coming off of 25 and entering into agreement with several homes along there to get water access for them. They did a budget workshop and for them on their end of CFIS moving forward as well. And then they're working with the road commission on some burn removal. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Gary?
Last night I attended the Sandusky City Council and a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, they evaluation was done on the chief of police and the city manager. And last night that was approved. And both the chief of police and the city manager were given a 3% raise. And also the director of public works was given a new contract and a raise and 2 extra days vacation. 2 weeks ago, I attended the Watertown Township meeting. There's still planning committee is still working on the ordinance. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Roger?
Last night I attended the Lamont Township meeting. Their discussion was mainly on zoning ordinances. Some of them are pretty cloudy. They've got a new attorney, as many townships do at this point, and communication hasn't been real good with him, so they're struggling with that. Cody from the road commission, the shop foreman out there, he attended, updated on some roads. Cody's very proactive on roads, so much so that the road commission has kind of shut him down on new projects. He's got so many on the books, which is a good thing. He's keeping up on culverts that need to be replaced and whatnot before they cause issues. That's it for me. Oh, Marlette, City of Marlette didn't attend the meeting, but their pool, which has been an issue for several years, is up and running now for a couple of weeks. Seems to be going smoothly. And Marlette Oil and Gas is actually sponsoring free swim Sundays. I believe it's from 1 to 5 that anybody can swim free. So that's a nice gesture. I'll be doing. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate everyone's commissioner reports. Nathan, your administrator report, please.
Yeah. So first thing, before I get into the situation involving the MREC litigation and Rick Sundquist, who was supposed to be here, I did want to touch on Commissioner Lee noted. I believe what she was alluding to was the Brown City home that is going to be rehabbed. So as part of the land bank, and I see actually Kim, who's part of our land bank, is here today, and Trudy as well. The land bank had met. There had been some grant dollars, as you guys know, that had come in. There had been some demolition projects, blighted properties that would be cleaned up as part of that. But an additional piece was there was a home in Brown City that sits on a very nice parcel there in town. And the goal is that to utilize some funding to rehab that home. And the land bank has agreed to a willingness to put forward some additional dollars if necessary. That's in the land bank account to assist with that rehab. So that'll be a positive. It'll get a home that's right on Main Street in Brown City on a beautiful lot back up to where it's livable, because right now it's just not, it's deteriorated inside. It needs a lot of repairs and it would be quite costly. So good use of state dollars, state funding, and local land bank dollars as well. We'll go towards that. Looking at that probably being, that'll probably be a spring of 2025 project. It probably won't get done this year because there's some demolition projects as part of that grant that have to take place for these. In regards to Rick Sundquist from Clark Hill, to give just a brief history. He is an attorney that has represented the MREC group, and this precedes probably most of us here because it goes back about 12 years. And the MREC group was, I guess it was created by 4 counties and specifically the townships in those counties being Sanilac, Huron, Tuscola, and Gratiot counties, who had windmills that were put
within the townships in each of those counties, and after they were installed a short period of time later, the windmill companies argued that the turbines depreciated a lot quicker than they expected, which affected the taxable value of those. So they were trying to get clawbacks from the townships on those, and that's where litigation began, and the townships said, let's band together. Because individually, it'd be very difficult for townships to fight the companies, but collectively, it made it much easier. So they worked together, agreements were made in regards to consumers, DTE, and unfortunately for us, the last group that has to be, or that was being settled was with Constellation, who has wind parks in Minden, Delaware, and Marion Township here. Late last night, or in the after hours last night, Mr. Sundquist reached out to me and said the county no longer needs to approve anything because as he got talking to the attorneys on the other side, since we don't do county zoning, we're really not in any way a party to the settlement agreements. It's with the townships specifically. They're the ones that are being hit through the tax, if you will. They're the ones that are going to be looking at the potential, whether they want to repower those turbines or not. When Constellation has expressed a desire to repower those turbines. And when you say repowering, what they're looking to do is potentially alter the blades, alter the motors, things to make them, in their opinion, more efficient. But they haven't also ruled out changing the height. What they have expressed is they don't see a significant change in the height, but there could be the potential for a change to the height of those turbines. So they will go to each of the townships when that time comes. The positive, if you will, that's come out of this, originally, when litigation began, they were looking at refunds of almost $1.5 million that they wanted to claw back. That number has been reduced to roughly $570,000. With the understanding that if repowering were to take place, that number could be reduced or potentially forgiven, I'll say. Each of the townships will have the opportunity to review the repowering plans, and if they enter into it, their portion of the lawsuit could be forgiven. Any township who doesn't would be on the hook to pay their remainder. And I've got some numbers here. So among the three townships, they're looking at collectively about $205,000. Delaware is a big player because they have 37 turbines in Delaware. They'd be looking at $142,000 roughly. Marion would be looking at about almost $13,000, and Minden would be looking at almost $50,000 that they would have to repay. But with the understanding that if they allow for repowering, that could be completely forgiven. Because the county also collects taxes from the residents of those counties, the county would be looking at reimbursement from the general operating of about $205,000. With the understanding, again, that number could be reduced if repowering takes place in any of those townships or all of them. It could be completely.
We don't really have a say whether they repower or not. That's something everybody needs to understand is that to me, that's a potential liability, sitting in the wings, because we have no control of whether the townships would or would not approve a repower agreement.
Yeah, and just so everybody has a brief history, and I know as you guys visit the townships, and some of them are going to be mulling these opportunities as they come through, if you will, or these projects. I think one of the biggest issues that the group had with this was that the turbines were put in and there was what was maybe just short of promises being made about the total dollar amount that schools would be receiving and counties and the townships. And then when they said, well, these are depreciating faster than expected, essentially they're taking back some of their promise or a great deal of them. What the group struggled with is there was no evidence they really found that they were producing less energy though. So they were talking about the depreciation and why these have gone down. And I know that was one of the things specifically, it was in an article in Tuscola where they noted there was no loss in energy production that they could find. So why were they saying the depreciation had taken place? However, on these matters, litigation gets lengthy and is very costly. And as our treasurer can attest to, there's been 12 years of pay that's gone out for these. And I think at this point, the group agreed that, well, some of these townships and some of the millages might get hit a little bit with settlement offers. Everybody's in a situation where they said, how long can this continue to go on? Because we are paying attorney fees. And if it goes to trial, that would be very costly. So I think looking at the original numbers of a $1.5 million hit to getting it down to in the range of $570,000 greatly reduces the exposure and is something that everybody was agreeable to. I know 2 of the 3 townships that settled. I believe Marion still has to decide whether they want to in that agreement, but it sounds like they're trending in that direction along with Delaware and Minden. So
yeah,
okay. A lot. I know there's a lot there. I myself was trying to play catch up from the time I started here because there have been 9 to 10 years of work that have been done on this prior to me entering in. And I think at this point, everybody's in agreement that this is probably as good of a deal as we're going to get, and to continue to fight this and pay attorney fees doesn't do anybody any good. So
Nathan, do you happen to have any idea how much we've spent in attorney fees in the last 12 years?
I don't have that right here. Like I said, I did put together the original numbers, but that is something that I just was curious.
I believe I know I signed an invoice today for parks. I believe it was $348, but I think they've come down over the years. It seems like they were up around 700 or higher in the beginning, maybe 1,200.
Yes.
Like you said, I've been signing them for many years. So how do we budget for next year, say parks, if we have to give money back?
Well, so here's the interesting dynamic there is a potential that they could come and ask to repower, and if it's denied, then I guess your worst case exposure of what you would have to pay back. So I think what we want to look at is budgeting accordingly for that. However, they have a 10-year window and they can ask to repower anytime during that 10-year window. If they never do, the debt's completely forgiven. So they agreed as part of this repowering that they were going to remove a third of the requested agreed upon dollar amount right off the top. So that got eliminated. So we were left with 2/3 of the total. And as part of this, they have 10 years to request repowering. If it's granted, the remaining 2/3 is forgiven for that township, which would then reduce the liability to the county operating and all the millages. If it's not granted, that number would stay whole. We unfortunately do not know what each of those townships is going to do. So I think budgetarily, we probably prepare for worst case scenario. The problem is this could be, like I say, we could have to maybe put this in our budget as an allocation just for the next 10 years, and it may never even happen. But I think it's likely they will ask to repower at some point. It's just when. So, and then what the townships decide to do.
I think through the conversations we've had in this process, Nathan, there's been some information alluded to that maybe Constellation was looking at a particular type of turbine that they wanted to utilize. They haven't been able to get those from the manufacturer. So, I mean, it could be supply chain issues, but the reality is we don't know when that request is going to come. And the situation the townships are in is, for most of them, like their max height restriction might be 499 feet, and that's the current turbines are below that. As Nathan indicated, they want to get more efficiency. That might just mean a 15-foot longer blade, but that puts the total height of the turbine up towards 508 feet, which is the number that the FAA has been made aware of already. I've already gotten information related to that. It puts the township in a little bit of a precarious position because I'm sure nobody really wants to get too upset about 8 feet, but the reality is the rules are what they are. And so should they deviate that for a monetary, reason. And I think that's the difficulty. And it's really gonna be hard to say, you look at a township like Marion that has a very small liability, it might be easier for them to just write the check and be done with it. But that's a non-repower situation. And then whatever part of those 6 turbines that are in that township, that clawback is then gonna affect the millages and county. So that's why, even though we are not going to formally approve anything here at the Board of Commissioners, it's really important everybody be aware of this, because this is something that's gonna percolate in the background until that request comes, and we're not the ones that are gonna be in control whether it gets approved or not. So I think the lesson learned is when a developer comes to town and promises you lots of tax revenue, maybe just be slightly cautious about how much of that you buy into, because our experience has been, it didn't work out quite the way we were promised it was gonna be.
And they were promises.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows when these projects get going and the developers, they do a lot of advertising indicating the money for the schools and all those types of things. What they don't advertise is the fact that you might have to give some of that money back. And as you indicated, Roger, the largest challenge, especially for the townships, is trying to budget. It's a huge budgetary concern. You don't know what your revenues are gonna be. So it's a challenging situation, but I do have to give Nathan a lot of credit in this. This has been dragging on for 12 years. I think Nathan kind of took a lead role for here at the county. He's actually been orchestrating meetings with the supervisors to get everybody in the same room, to get the conversation going, so we can get to this point to be done with this.
He's definitely brought it to the front burner,
Yes,
just kind of ignoring it.
yep.
So the township that has like $100 and some $1,000, have they actually even taken in that amount or more in the last 10 years?
Yes, Delaware has noted that they've taken in money, and they're fully aware that through this, what could happen, and they've got money set aside that they said they could pay it off. Worst case scenario, they could make that payment.
Right.
So everybody's kind of been aware, but I mean, there's numbers. I mean, when you look at like schools, I mean, our local ISD, they're looking at the $67,000 payment through part of this too, which they've had that money. I've talked to Dwayne Lang out at the ISD. I mean, they're aware and they've got it budgeted and they're ready to make this go away as well. And Deckerville Schools looking at just over $14,000. So there's a lot of different folks who have been or will be affected, and it's unfortunate. And that's what was discussed with these, is you're looking at schools. So you're talking children, you're talking veterans, you're talking seniors. When you get into the millages, recycling, medical care, 911, you're pulling money that all these folks didn't think they were going to have to pay back to you. And that's why getting it reduced as much as they could, I think, kind of softens that blow. Because originally, when that number came through and it was almost $1.5 million, the numbers that I read to you guys would be altered a great deal. We'd be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for the schools and the villages rather than.
And that's what happened in Tuscola County.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like USA or Seaboing, one of the school districts up
Yeah.
there had to pay out, I guess.
Right.
Yes, and repowering was not part of the prior agreements. And while the MREC group didn't like getting into the concept of repowering, in the end, it gives, I guess, the townships the ability to have, and many of the taxpayers, as mentioned, an ability to have all the debt, if you will, forgiven, which I think is at least an opportunity for them to explore this.
Right. And getting a third of it wiped away right off the top is certainly beneficial. Does anybody else have any other questions related to that?
No.
Nathan, I think you did a good job of explaining where we're at, where we're going. And I know we've been saying this for months, but I'm really hopeful that we get these townships to move forward on this, and so we can put this behind us. But it's behind us, son, and we're dealing with it, but we have to remember that budgetarily, all the millages in the county, we need to be remembering that those dollars could come away from us at any point the next 10 years.
In general operating.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why I say it's just, I think, as you talk to your townships, if they have a development coming to town, I mean, it's not, you got to stonewall and say it's a bad thing, but if they're there promising major tax revenue, maybe consider that it might not be quite what they say it is, or be conservative in your spending, or be conservative in the idea that you may have to, because look at the situation we're in. And so it'd be, anything we can do to try to help other people from getting in that situation would be helpful. You know, I'm glad that the townships in my district were wise and saved money on the possibility that this would happen. But I mean, you guys all deal with townships. $100,000 is a lot of money to a township. And there's a lot of townships out there that if they got nailed with a $100,000 bill, they couldn't pay it. So it's something to take incredibly seriously, in my opinion.
You know, this is sad because we were deceived. Bottom line, right?
I mean, to a degree.
Like you said, Nathan said, we've got to be more vigilant up front with these contracts. Or, I mean, maybe it's the wrong thing to say, maybe it's too strong, but we were deceived. They knew what they were doing back then, and here we are.
Yeah.
And they used the community people and the citizens of our community.
You said that was almost 20 years,
It's disgusting. It's not sad.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's something else that's percolated in this realm for quite some time, and that's a pilot program. So it's payment in lieu of taxes. I have no direct experience with any community doing a pilot program, but I have a hard time thinking that wouldn't be the best way to do it. If it's legal and it's appropriate and there's an opportunity for that community to enter into an agreement that's contractual, we will pay you X dollars a year for being able to do this. Then if the developer doesn't pay, you just go right to court and you deal with it in the court system because you've got a contract. When you're dealing in the world of taxation, everybody in this room that owns property gets an assessment from the assessor at some point in the year, and you have the right to contest that assessment. That is essentially what's gone on with these wind turbines. They contested their assessment. 12 years later, we're still dealing with it. So I just want to share that too, that when you're out in the townships, if they're discussing a pilot program, maybe encouraging them to look very hard at that, because that would mitigate a lot of the issues that we've seen with the taxation over the years, with the company's ability to contest that taxable value, even though they were the ones using it as the sell point at the beginning of the project.
Well, and I think to your point, Chairman Black, the other thing that townships have to recognize is, like in this situation, these were counties or townships within 4 counties who banded together to fight this fight collectively. When these companies come in and make promises, I think making sure that they do their due diligence up front, because on the back end, it's very tough. I mean, we look at our townships within this county and they vary greatly in size. And some of our smaller townships taking on a battle like this alone against an energy company.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to disparage any of our townships. It's just some are small and don't have deep pockets, and to battle DTE or consumers, the energy companies would just bleed them dry.
Yeah, eat them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, Nathan. I represent District 1. It's a large district, and I have townships that have some of the most beautiful fire halls with the big fire department and every feature you could ever want. And I have townships that have no running water in their hall. And I wonder, how do you get through an election process, literally with a porta potty? And that is the reality. Is some of our rural communities do not have the resources that other communities have. So it's great that MREC was able to band together and get us to where we are, but I think communities need to be awful careful when they go into this moving forward, because they may not get lucky and have an opportunity like that. So. Very good. If that is all we have to discuss with that, Nathan, is there anything further in your administrator report you'd like to cover?
I think I took enough of the time for the meeting today.
Okay. You're usually pretty brief with us.
Good discussion.
Yeah, and we appreciate the information. And again, thank you for taking a lead role to get those townships together and try to get this thing resolved.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to public comments pertaining to the agenda. Are there any public comments pertaining to the agenda today?
I just want to ask Nathan a question. It seems this accelerated depreciation argument is happening across counties. We underestimate. So do these energy companies just have really lousy accountants? Or is this an excuse? Because it's happening in Tuscola. They're going to tax tribunals. It's happening in some northern counties. So I don't know. It seems to me, I'm suspicious that it's an excuse.
Yeah, and that's the issue.
Big and come in,
Yeah.
and then call back.
That's exactly the issue the group the group had. However, when it goes to court, sometimes, you never know who they're gonna side with. And there was some agreement that they felt, the courts felt, not in Sanilac, but in the other communities where this took place, that the depreciation was accelerated. But if they know that, why isn't there a little more transparency on the front end? If this has happened multiple times now, they should be learning and know how to produce a bit more accurate numbers.
Any further public comment pertaining to the agenda? Seeing none, we are going to move on. We're going to move into presentations. We have an update from Salient Transportation, Richard Hall. Richard, good to see you. Welcome.
I should say good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to come back and clean up some loose ends from last time around. So what the board has this time around is a report that is done by municipal district. And what this shows, like I say, the first page is the city of Brown City. Excuse me. So what this does, this shows them the people that are getting on in Brown City. These are the locations that we're going to, whether it be City of Marlette, City of Sandusky, Township of Bridgehampton, Elk, and so on. And then it breaks it down. It could be like City of Croswell. We've got a column in there for under 5. We've got adults and then seniors. So to me, this gives a much better picture as to who's using this service. Last time around, we talked about their purpose. And to me, this is a much better idea as to who's using the service. So I don't have anything as far as income goes, anything like that. The best I can do on that is a lot of places that we pick people up are going to be at some type of Section 8 housing, things of that nature. So to me, that indicates that we're picking up people that have economically depressed. Like I say, City of Brown City, City of Croswell, Marlette, Sandusky, and then the rest of the townships.
I went through and highlight my different townships and stuff from the whatever, and I noticed a lot of them are going to Elk Township, and I'm trying to think of what is so.
What's in Elk?
Yes, besides the Village of Peck.
But yeah, this information should provide the commissioners with a much better idea what the constituents are doing. Something like this. I don't know what the past, I don't know how this falls into like master plans for transportation. I've been invited to a couple of those meetings. I know. I don't know if it's a help or a hurt, but here it is. We can go on through. We got our geofencing set on up, so the information is accurate.
Richard, do you happen to have the data on like what percentage of county residents utilize Salient Transportation services? So is this all you wanted to do today? Essentially, was kind of show us these updated numbers?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Is there anything further that you'd like to discuss?
I think while we're talking about updates, last time I was here, we talked about funding, state budget has been passed, it's gone to the governor's office. We are not going to know, we being the transit agencies in the state, we don't know what our percentage of, local bus operating reimbursement, what that number is going to be. The meeting is August 20th. We'll know at that time what's going on there. SOARS Act, that's been tabled. That conversation isn't going to pick up again until August. And there was some funds in there for potentially for transportation. It was going to be tied in with the infrastructure bill, which would have been due for the transit agency. So that's been tabled to August. We've made contact with the DHHS to talk about some different things. We talked about dialysis a lot last time around. We've made contact with them. We're trying to start a conversation as to what opportunities might be there on that. So, yeah, that's that's where the current update would be at. So hopefully the LBO numbers come back in much more reasonable. The logic for the big drop from what I was told is two legislators, how should I word this? Having a little contest about wills or will. We'll go with that. And one had the ability to cut it out. And again, this is a suggestion that came up to us. It's not in stone, and that's what the August 20th meeting was about. At that time, we'll know. So I'd like to think that after several months, they've had a time to think about that, reassess what they were discussing and be a little more, let's say, realistic about what they were talking about. So.
But if you guys are gonna take a budgetary hit, like, let's say hypothetically that they don't figure something out for you guys, and you do take a budgetary hit, what kind of position are you in? Would it be a reduction in service that people could expect?
Yes.
Have you done any math on what scope or scale that would be?
Not yet. That'll be coming on up here as to what it'll be. Round numbers. The first pass on through was gonna be a drop like $197,000.
What's your annual operating budget currently?
1.8.
Okay.
So that's a big chunk of it, because it's, for as silly as this sounds, for every dollar we save, we lose 50 cents in revenue. That's an odd concept to me. Going through college and everything, that concept never came up. So it's different from that perspective. So if we save money on fuel, that's part of the eligible expense on the reports we turn in. Again, round numbers, if we save $10,000 in fuel, we lose $50,000 in revenue. So it's that balancing act. It's not straightforward. We're going to cut expenses to match up income, because that number always changes. It always floats back and forth. And that's the challenge with that. And that's why we're hoping that in Lansing, that they can get to a point where they can get to a spot where they can stabilize our funding. So we've got something that we can plan on, accordingly, reasonably, instead of taking something, like I say, a hit like that, and that's the goal.
Up until this year, Richard, has it been fairly stable funding from the state?
We've been averaging percentage wise for LBO, probably 34, 36% right around through there. I mean, we got additional funds, obviously, everybody did, when COVID was going on with RTAP funds and so on. That was a big shot in the arm for us. Yeah, that's gone away. Like for us, there would have been 18% that would have come from the feds. That number is no longer there. There was additional 4% coming from the state. So between the states and the feds, we probably lost 22% right there. And then, like I say, then they compounded possibly by lowering our LBO. That just puts us into a much more difficult situation.
Okay.
Richard, I was looking at your numbers here, and obviously the city of Sandusky and Marlette are your biggest users of the transportation, correct? And maybe you touched on it and I missed it. I know Commissioner Leah talked about Elk Township, but you get out into Ward Township and you have very few people you pick up there. So does the state, do they cover that extra cost of extra mileage? And I know you can't pick and choose who you'll get. I understand it's open to everybody, but it would seem to me that it would not take much money and much mileage to pick somebody up in Sandusky to take them to mental health or wherever, to the hospital. But when you get out to Ward Township, Elk Township, and some of those outlying areas, does the state subsidize the difference in cost, what it costs to go?
It's a flat percentage. We turn in quarterly reports on what our expenses are. First, like I say, for fuel, we turn in mileage, so they know what's going on. Was it last year? I think we did 624,000 miles. I think it was. We've been having a problem getting vehicles in from them. We talked about that last Friday afternoon. They were surprised the mileage that we put on. And as everybody in this room knows, we're the largest landmass county in the Lower Peninsula. So with 960 some odd miles. You can leave Sandusky and go down to Worth Township, hitting one stoplight if you go through Lexington, and it'll take you 35, 40 minutes to get there. And that's always a challenge for us, is that we go to pick up Roger, but then we go by Commissioner Huberly's place, Commissioner Sarkella's place, and then we go pick up Commissioner Lee. So our miles didn't really go down with the reduction in passenger count because of that. It did go down, to what it was previous to COVID. But not in the same ratio as it did with passenger count and miles.
Richard, you've been doing this a while. In your opinion, do you feel that the rural agencies such as yourself get pushed aside at the state funding level in comparison to the urban areas?
Yeah, yes. And we've got they've started a transit caucus down there in Lansing, which a lot of us were glad to hear. Alexander, the Representative Alexander is involved in that. And we need people like that down there to stick up for us because it's for the rural, for the small guy, because it's not what the rules, and we've been talking about this for some time now, several years, is that with the RTF down in southeast Michigan, Detroit, so they got Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, how they were serviced before by little pockets, by townships. And now they're gonna cover the whole 3-county, the tri-county area. So that's more buses, more drivers, more wages, more fuel, all those other expenses that are eligible for us. And the pie's only so big. So when someone new comes to the table that's got a big chunk of pie, everybody else's goes down a little bit like this. And with MDOT, we're part of the Office of Passenger Transportation. So rails always, I think rails underneath that, ferries underneath that, air's underneath that. And so you've got all these other agencies that are competing for money too. And, they've always talked about high-speed rail between Detroit and Chicago. Different things like that. That puts pressure on us. A lot of the rural agencies, we're here to service, for us, most of it's seniors. To get this program, to get the services, and that's the main thing. You get down around Port Huron or something like that, then it's more job related. I know at one time Blue Water had a service set up with, used to be Britex down in Marysville to get people to work. We do some of that, but not on the scale of what they do. Different population, different densities.
Okay, did you have any? Go ahead, Ryan.
Just a comment. You mentioned rural areas. I'm surprised they're not referring to you as frontier. DHHS, I'm on the mental health board. Some of them have started referring to the rural areas as frontier areas. I don't know, it makes me feel like we're going backwards.
We're the Wild West out here.
Apparently, yeah. Yeah,
I can dig it. I'm good with that.
maybe it'll attract tourists, who knows?
Come on out to the Wild West.
Yeah,
we're already there.
Is that Huron County was working with the state about an autonomous bus. And so MDOT came on up and some other people and such like that. And they got talking about the deer population. Because I don't think in their calculations, they put any type of allowance in there for deer crossing the roads. Because they're more geared towards the metropolitan area, we don't have that. They had one down running in Lansing. We took that for a ride, or got on to go for a ride. And there was a group of students by a crosswalk there, and somebody started to back on them. The bus just started slowing right on down, breaking it. It wasn't gradual, it was starting to settle on down. So it knew that. But the question was asked, does that deer running across the road happen very often?
Not at all.
Richard, you're making me feel like our officials in Lansing are slightly out of touch in how we live out here, the things we deal with.
Kind of a little bit.
I wonder. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to come back and clean house up and you guys.
Very good. Thanks for being here, Richard.
Thanks.
Okay, that will conclude presentations. I see no need for 13A or, well, wait a second. We have District 2.
Yeah.
Is going to be appointing Carl Volz to the Council on Aging. Carol, I'm sorry, Carol.
Carl.
Call Carl all the time.
I'm
Fail, even from heaven.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I goof up a few times in every meeting. I apologize. That had to be you, but. So, and thank you for your service and your willingness to serve. I see no need for 14 in county chair appointments. So we're going to move into general resolutions. And it's going to be a resolution for deficit elimination, and this is for contractual patrol. Any commissioner that so chooses could read that resolution for us. I would appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Can I briefly just back up? I just want to thank Carol. It took them several weeks to find this money. I put it out to all the townships in my district and, I don't know, one day a light bulb came on and I thought, Carol does a lot for her mother-in-law and she's elderly and I thought she'd make a great advocate for our senior citizens. So I didn't really have to make anything up. I thought I was gonna have to start making stuff up. But I just basically gave her the facts and she was good with that. So I do appreciate you.
Retirement and pay wages, thing like that.
Yeah, right, you know, the $100 per diems and stuff.
Whoa, you're working on my budget there.
I said it's a perfect chance. It's just a short term, and then she can decide if she wants to continue on with it.
Well, we hope that you decide to stay on.
But I think she'll do a very good job for us. Thank you.
But
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll read this because it's the shortest resolution.
hold on one second. I want to give you one warning though. And that's that when you join a board like that, expect to get asked to join more. It's,
As long as you stay on my board.
but it is,
Yeah.
it's great to get involved and have people get involved. And we see it up here all the time and making these appointments is that sometimes it can be hard to find people to fill those roles. And so we really appreciate everybody who does. And it takes every single one of those committee members and everybody to be involved. Our land bank, what you guys have been able to accomplish. And getting those boards with good people on them is how we get things done for the community. And that helps us bring in those grant dollars and make sure that things are running efficiently and smoothly. So.
And for those that don't know, the Senior Council on Aging is, they allocate the funds from the senior millage. They're responsible for that and overseeing that, so.
Which is a very, very
Very
important
responsibility.
Yeah. And they're very protective of those funds and
Yeah.
they're very
And I like.
aware.
Very good. Good discussion. Gary, did you volunteer to read this one?
Shortest resolution we have here, so, yep. Resolution for defect elimination plan, whereas the Sand Lake County Contractual Patrol Fund showed $10,394 defect fund balance on December 31st, 2023, and whereas 1971 PA 140 requires that defect elimination plan be formulated by the local government and filed with the Department of Treasury, Michigan Department of Treasury. Down below on the bottom part, do you want me to read the explanation?
Just the now therefore be it resolved part, Gary, right below that.
Okay. Now therefore be resolved, the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners adopts the following defect elimination plan for Sand Lake County Contractual Patrol Fund.
I have a resolution offered by Commissioner Heberlein. Is there support? The support from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there discussion? Nathan, just a brief explanation of this one for us, please.
Yeah, so
I know we discussed it. I just want it to be vocalized.
that's completely fine. So on this one, when the numbers were transferred over during the audit, as it says in the explanation, the unassigned balance, which showed as a deficit, should have been combined with the committed, and then it would have removed that.
Okay.
Unassigned balance, and we would have been clear because in the end, it had a positive fund balance of almost $5,000.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there was one more paragraph that needs to be read on the next page. Last paragraph, be it further resolved that the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners submits a defect elimination plan to the Michigan Department of Treasury for certification.
Okay.
I'll still support it.
Okay, we have a resolution with support. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Leslie, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Heberlein,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarkella.
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
and Chairman Bell.
Yes. Resolution is carried. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, now we're going to move on to a resolution for deficit elimination plan, and this is related to Stone Garden.
I'll read it.
Sure.
Whereas Sand Lake County's Homeland Stone Garden Fund has a $179,742 deficient fund balance on December 31st, 2023. And whereas 1971 PA 140 requires a deficit elimination plan be formulated by the local unit of government and filed with the Michigan Department of Treasurer. Now, therefore, it is resolved the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners adopts the following as a deficient elimination plan for the Sanilac County Homeland Stone Garden Fund. Skip the explanation part.
Yep.
Or read
Yeah,
it.
one more paragraph.
Be it full resolved, the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners submits the deficit elimination plan to the Michigan Department of Treasurer for certification.
I have a resolution offered by Commissioner Ehart. Is there,
Support.
I have support by Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? I do have some questions. Todd, you're here to answer questions. Would you be willing to come up? So Todd, just, I guess, how did we get here?
How did we get here? Stone garden is a different animal. It's not like any other thing that we have. The funding period goes over a 3-year period. For instance, the two that Nate and I have been working on is a 21-22 funding period, of which it goes from 21 to 24, October or July of 24. The 22 year goes out to July of 25. Okay, and it all kind of just blends together. And to be perfectly honest, this is an animal that kind of got off his chain a little bit, and that's caught him again, and have put all the paperwork in to take care of this deficit through this. We've changed, as it says in the explanation there, we've changed how we're going to do some reporting to that. This is a really kind of a complicated deal. It's funds that come from Homeland Security, which pass through the state, of which supplies overtime wages for officers to be on the road, of which that involves the sergeants and everything else as far as timekeeping, and because all this stuff has to be separated from their normal operations. Okay. And then on the other side of the coin, where this funding comes from is I prepare what they call operational plans every year and present them to Border Patrol about how many hours that we could work and how much money it's going to cost to make this happen. And then in the end, it all blends into one product. And like I said, this animal just got away and got a little more than what we thought it was. So we've changed it to where now we're going to start doing this on a monthly to try to get it together. Because when everybody's reporting, there's different numbers that come in. And if the numbers don't match up exactly, you got to go digging and find where they are. And myself and Sergeant Park spent many hours trying to sort out some of the things to try to come up with, to get everything straightened out. So that's kind of what's going on straight up. So,
Okay. I mean, this is important funding. This is important funding in the fact that this is funding from the federal government that helps provide our officers to be basically running up and down our county roads.
Yep.
And providing even more enforcement. So this is a great resource for the community.
Yep.
It sounds like you guys have identified some deficiencies in how this was being implemented, and you're going to make some changes.
We already have.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
I don't have any further questions. I would just say, Todd, in the future, let's keep that dog on the chain.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was tough to catch there. Does
anybody have any further questions? Great, thank you for being here, Todd.
Thanks, man.
Is there any further discussion related to the resolution for deficit elimination plan? Hearing none, Leslie, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Chairman Block,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
and Commissioner Heberling.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
Okay, and we have a third resolution today. This one is a resolution supporting the Region 7 Area on Aging Annual Implementation Plan. Any commissioner that so wishes?
Do that.
Oops.
Roger?
Since that's truly the shortest. one.
I was gonna say, I was gonna do it better.
Yeah, there's probably a few less words now.
Thanks.
Whereas said resolution supporting the Region 7 Area Agency on Aging Annual Implementation Plan. Whereas said agency has developed a fiscal year 2025 annual implementation plan, and the Board of Commissioners has reviewed the same. Therefore, be it resolved that the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby supports fiscal year 2025 Region 7 Area Agency on Aging's annual implementation plan. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the proceedings of the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners this 16th day of July 2024, and to forward a copy of this resolution to the Region 7 Area Agency on Aging.
Support.
I have a resolution offered by Commissioner Ballard, supported by Commissioner Lee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Leslie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberling,
Yes.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Chairman Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
That will conclude general resolutions. We're going to move directly into committee reports. So we're going to start with Commissioner Ballard.
No meetings other than Thursday. I have soiler. Outer Park, I'll give you a little update. Work has begun. Friday I was out there. They had dug footings. First time we got rain, so I don't know where they're at, but they have started on work on the residents. The parks were full. Having the 4th of July in a somewhat middle of the week really helps. So they were full both weekends, and I'd say close to 100% full during the week with people coming and going. They had kind of split holidays. So revenues are great. Lexington is booked 100% on weekends into September this year. And occupancy seems to be up during the week at all of the parks, and Forester in particular. Forester has the draw of Lake Huron, which helps them tremendously, especially in this heat. So people are finally coming to realization that camping's not just on weekends anymore, and they're much more available during the week. So good for the parks. That's all I got.
Thank you, Roger. Gary?
We have our county planning committee tonight at 4:00 at the training center. And also Roger basically covered pretty well everything in our parks and board meeting we held in Lexington 2 weeks ago. I don't need to expand on anything.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Bill?
Board of Public Works is today. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Christine?
Council on Aging, they approved their budget yesterday. And then this morning I had the Child Abuse Prevention Council, and they have some upcoming events in partnership with Eva Place on July 20th, the free bowling at Liberty Lanes in Sandusky. August 22nd is the Youth Empowerment Camp at Camp Carvel with 80 registered campers so far. September 20th is a community baby shower. July 25th, Kids Day at Stonegate. July 27th, the sheriff report that the airport's going to have their Christmas in July. And then also that day, it's the first responder golf outing and dinner. And Kids Day at the fair is August 8th. And then I had the health board meeting, and at the senior fair, they said there was probably about 180 people there. And Kids Day with the Thumb Festival and stuff, they figured they had 1,000 people that went through their area. The Maple Valley building over there for the health department, they had 18 companies are bidding on putting a security camera system in, and they're still interviewing them. They also had 5 companies that were bidding for the sign. The iTech person said that when spending money online, do it through an app with built-in protection like PayPal or Venmo or your credit card. Apple Pay doesn't have that protection, so be careful when you're ordering online. COVID infections are going up in Michigan, but not many hospitalization. And your Epic pens, be careful where you store them, because in this hot weather and stuff, they can malfunction. Especially some people leave them in their car, so they're very handy, and they go to use them and they poke and poke and poke, and they don't work because of the extreme heat.
What do they do?
They poke. They go like this a few times.
A whole lot of poking going.
Yeah, but they're not working, so just be careful where you store them, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Christine. As Gary stated, we have a county planning commission meeting tonight. I just want to vocalize that we all know with the new state citing law, Public Act 233, that townships are basically, they're supposed to change their ordinances to match the state standards. We've already seen 2 townships do that in kind of their own way. They're doing it a little different than what maybe we expected. Tonight, we'll be reviewing another ordinance from Bridgehampton Township that's doing the same thing, adopting those standards. They're not completely, they are creating districts where this stuff is allowed to be, which there's an argument that the state didn't dictate where it had to go, but we are starting to see that kind of action, which is good. It's good to see the townships getting involved and seeing that they needed to get involved in this. So that's all I have for committee.
I did want to mention, Mr. Chairman, we have two more of our planning commission members been attending our meetings here, so.
Yeah. We got our chairperson, Scott Kenny, and Jan Cargill, one of our members. And I shouldn't bring it up now, and I guess I won't completely, but I think there's something good for the planning commission coming down the pipeline, Nathan, in the near future. Some work that they did is gonna get recognized.
Yes.
So,
Sorry.
well,
I drew a blank.
that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So,
Leave us in suspense.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'll email you later.
I'm not missing any meetings.
So that's all I had. Evans?
I have HDC tomorrow, but last week, and I talked to Chairman Block and Nathan about it earlier. The HDC Food Distribution Center in Deckerville is gonna be changing locations come September. They're still trying to find a new location to set up, but when that gets, all those details get hammered out, I'll bring it back to the board and let everyone know. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Evans. John?
I had, the Central Dispatch Advisory Board meeting this morning. Talked about some old business, grant that we're still waiting on hearing from. The deputy director's position, which I believe the deputy or the director has met with personnel on that position, so we'll probably be seeing that shortly. Dispatch reclassification also, we'll probably be seeing shortly. And we awarded, Medcom Radio, a bid that we received we received 5 bids on 120 new pagers for fire departments, and we awarded it to Midcom, which we'll do the finalization on that shortly here at the board meeting. That's it. I have community corrections tomorrow and medical care facility on the 29th.
Okay, very good. Thank you, John. Appreciate everyone's committee reports. I see no need for unfinished business. We're going to move directly into new business. And we're going to start out today with FA-100-24, approval of 2024 current claims.
Salem County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2024 identified in the accounts payable report dated July 9th, 2024 for the general bank account in the amount of $111,034.91.
I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 101-24, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
Salem County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments as listed.
I have a motion by Finance Chairman Sarkella. Is there support? Support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 102-24, approval of additional general fund bank account checks charged to June 2024.
Salem County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of additional general fund bank account checks charged to June 2024 as follows. $898,163.76 in ACH payments, $356,782.69 in checks for a total of $1,254,946.45.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, supported by Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 103-24, authorization for Police Academy sponsorship, Sheriff's Office.
Salem County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Sheriff's Office send Joshua Orzell and Robert Arnold to Schoolcraft College, Wayne County Regional Police Academy for July 15th, 2024 through November 8th, 2024 to cost $24,000 for each of the total costs not to exceed $48,000 with reimbursement if available from MCO's Public Safety Academy Assistance Grant Program if grant funding is unavailable funding from the Sheriff's Office budget.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion?
I did get an email not too long ago about I don't remember who it came from, but the governor did sign in that $10 million addition to keep funding these, so
Okay.
that should be covered.
That's good. I think that's a highly important way of trying to get people trained for those positions. Is there any further discussion related to FA 103-24? Leslie, no vote yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 104-24, award and authorization to purchase computer workstations, information technology.
Salem County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the purchase of 15 Dell Precision 3680 workstations for administration and treasurer's office at a cost of $1,223.63 each, along with 15 Microsoft Office License Office Suite Pro 2021s at a cost of $300 each for a total cost not to exceed $22,854.45 with funding from the Information Systems budget.
Support. I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkalis, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 105-24, award and authorization to purchase rugged laptop computers, information technology.
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the purchase of 50 rugged Panasonic laptop computers for Sand Lake County Public Safety Units from CDWG for Panasonic laptops at a cost of $1,749.72 each, along with the purchase of Microsoft Office License Office Suite Pro 2021 from Dell at a cost of $300 each for a total cost not to exceed $102,486 with funding of $90,187.68 from 911 Emergency Services and $12,298.32 from Drug Task Force.
I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkalis, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. That concludes new business. At this time, we'll call for general public comments. General public comments today.
Yeah. Okay. National, my name's Jan Carville. I'm from Sand Lake County. I'm from Sand Lake Township and I love Sand. We've got national elections coming quickly upon us. In South Carolina, early voting starts in September. We've had a slew of legislation come down from Lansing that isn't tilted in the favor of transparency. Private citizens are prohibited from contesting elections. We've got a new recount law that doesn't let us look at fraud or eligibility of voters. Allows the clerks to count ballots where the bag received with the seal broken or the precinct itself didn't balance. So with all that, I came here today to make you aware of a report that has just recently been unsealed. It's from Dr. Alex Holderman from the University of Michigan. This 90-page report was presented to CISA, which is our Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, back in June of 2022, but it's only recently been unsealed. And it came to the attention of Gateway Pundit because of an individual who had witnessed what I'm about to describe to you. I tried to highlight, there are 3 articles to this report. I tried to highlight the ones I thought were simplest to explain. These Dominion machines, with the use of a big pin, can be easily hacked. And it goes something like this. You take the big pin, in the back of a Dominion machine is a power switch. You hold the big pin in that power switch for 5 seconds and it reboots itself into safe mode. Many of you may have seen safe mode on your computers when something goes wrong with your operating system. From safe mode, you're allowed to get what's called super user access. This gives you access to all the files on the Dominion machine. You've used your file manager to delete files from your computer. And with this super user access, you can also edit some of those files. These are voter files on a Dominion machine. The Dominion machines are running outdated Windows software. So none of it's no longer supported. None of the updates that Windows sends out for security are being covered here. Let's see what else. In his report, he also talks about, what's most maddening about this is this hack was discovered by our Elections Assistant Commission back in January 2020, almost 11 months before the November 2020 election. And yet they still allow the machines to be used. You can pick up a smart card for $10 or a $20 USB smart card. And with it, you can create a voter card that can be used continuously across counties without detection. You can create a poll worker card, which gives you more access to the information on the Dominion machine, or a technician card, which is the worst. It's a master key that gives you super user access and all the ability for all the features I mentioned earlier. Another thing is there's an audit log on each on each one of these Dominion machines that shows every single change, insertion that's been made. With super user access, you can edit that and cover your evidence track. So I wanted to bring this to your attention. I sent 3 articles to your Yahoo email because my computer printer broke down and I need to get super access to it so I can fix it. So you can share it. I trust you'll share it with the other members of the board. I just want you to make you aware that the machines we're using for our elections can be easily hacked with victim. That's all I got.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you, June. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Trudy?
I said I wasn't gonna say. I know, but I changed my mind.
You're here.
I would like to say, my commendation to Nathan for all his work on this MREC stuff. It has been, I've been here 12 years and I've seen it from the get-go. And it is, we just got our June billing, which Roger said he signed, but we do, it was $5,000 some this month to the county. And we break that down like every 6 months billing. We start with January through June and we go back and bill all the entities, all the millages, all these townships that are involved. And, for someone like Nathan that has come in on the backside of this thing and taken the reins on it, it's been commendable. And we're all hoping to be rid of it just because it's been such a cost of the attorney bills and we just, it grinds us to have to go back and bill everybody for that, and the delinquent tax revolving fund dollars is, we pay that bill up front and then we go back and get reimbursed from all of these units, but it's just been a real long ride and I appreciate all Nathan's time. That's all.
I feel like we could have built Delaware.
We could have built, yeah.
I'm exaggerating.
I just,
Every time I sign it, I had it shoved at me today and she said, Roger, I need you, Brandy, I need you to sign this. And I looked at it and said, nope.
not gonna. Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. Any further public comments today? Hearing none, we're going to move on. I see no need for closed session. So if there's nothing further to come before the Board of Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting at 2:12.
I'll make that motion.
Support. Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Lee, support from Commissioner Ballard to adjourn at 2:12. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?